Soft sunlight streamed through the supermarket entrance, illuminating rows of fruits, vegetables, and countless other products that often left her bewildered. This morning, however, grocery shopping was far from routine. She found herself facing an unexpected dilemma. Lucas, her son-in-law, had offered to accompany her to the market, and she hadn't been able to refuse. Lucas, a man in his 30s, was one of those young men who effortlessly commanded attention. His chestnut hair framed his face in soft waves, his green eyes sparkled, and his smile exuded a peculiar charm, reminiscent of youth. As the husband of her daughter Anya, he had always been kind and considerate, but this morning there was an undeniable tension in the air. Trying to focus on her shopping list, she couldn't help but notice his every movement. There was a deceptive lightness and magnetism in his stride that evoked strange, indescribable feelings within her. The aroma of fresh bread and ripe fruit mingled with a growing sense of anticipation. "You'll love these new fruits, they just arrived," Lucas remarked, picking up a gleaming apple. He casually brushed it against his lips before placing it in the cart, adding, "You've always loved apples." "Funny," she replied, trying to divert her thoughts, but his image, with its disarming simplicity, ignited something else within her, a spark she hadn't anticipated. "Only the best for you, mother-in-law," he responded with a wink. Her thoughts raced. Experiencing such a potent cocktail of emotions felt strange. Being near him, she was transported back to her youth, yet now these feelings seemed confusing and forbidden. They continued to navigate the aisles, selecting groceries, but with each passing minute, the physical proximity between them became more palpable. When he leaned in for a package of rice from the top shelf, his body nearly brushed hers. A shiver ran down her spine, signaling that something more profound was unfolding between them. "Did you forget the eggs?" she asked, attempting to distract herself. "Yes, they're right here," Lucas replied, placing the carton next to her. Their gazes met involuntarily, and for a moment it felt like an eternity. The world around them seemed to vanish, leaving only that gaze. She saw a desire in his eyes that she hadn't even suspected, and which, she had to admit, she felt herself. Heat rushed to her face and she turned away, but he gently took her hand, making her heart pound faster. "Are you all right?" he asked in a soft, solicitous voice that, however, held a hidden interest. "Yes, of course," she mumbled, feeling an urge to leave, yet, strangely, not wanting to. An internal conflict tore at her, and every one of Lucas's jokes, every casual touch, intensified her desire to take control of the situation. They reached the dairy aisle, and she grabbed a tub of yogurt, but as always, he was right there to help. His proximity was scorching, and she could barely think straight. The tension mounted with every passing second. "Perhaps we should step away for a bit," Lucas suggested, a mischievous spark in his eyes. He looked at her with a sly smile, and for a moment, it seemed to her they were just two souls seeking adventure. Before she could reply, he moved away from the shelves and steered the cart toward a quieter area, away from the crowded store. "No one will see us," he whispered provocatively. Her heart pounded wildly in her chest. She knew it was wrong, that it shouldn't be happening, but at the same time, her entire being yearned for more. "Luke, this is wrong!" She tried to protest, but her voice failed her. He turned to her, beckoning her closer with a gesture. "It's never wrong to enjoy life," he said. "Sometimes you just need to let yourself feel something different." She hesitated, but curiosity and adrenaline proved stronger than reason. Slowly, as if in a dream, she followed Lucas to a secluded corner where tall shelves shielded them from prying eyes. "I came here just for groceries, but now I want something else," he said, his gaze fixed on her. His words took her breath away. "And what do you want?" she asked, knowing that, like a moth drawn to a flame, she was ready to burn. There was a promise in his words. "You know," he replied, taking a step closer. His smile held a disarming challenge. "Just let me show you what I want." And in that very instant, as if time had stopped, he leaned in and kissed her. It was a tender yet passionate kiss. Her body reacted instantly. His hands cupped her face, and she allowed herself to get lost for a moment in that stolen instant. Desire flared like fire, and she let herself fully surrender to the power of her feelings. But suddenly, it was as if she'd been doused with ice water. His gaze held a mix of surprise and desire, and her heart pounded wildly. "What have I done? Luke, we can't do this!" she exclaimed, but it was too late. The line she feared crossing was now behind her, and all she wanted was to feel his lips again. For a moment he froze, but then he pulled her back to him. "Why not, mother-in-law? Life's too short, and you feel it too, don't you? That there's something between us." She wanted to object, but the words caught in her throat. Glancing around and ensuring no one saw them, she felt the pulse in her ears become the only sound. "Lucas, what about Anya? What does this mean for our family?" she asked. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves," he replied, an untamed desire burning in his eyes. "Let's just enjoy the moment." The temptation was too great, and instead of pushing him away, she allowed herself to be swept up. She pressed against him, and their lips merged in a kiss, this time with such intensity it seemed capable of igniting everything around them. An electric current surged through her body from his touch, and as she dissolved into the kiss, she seemed to forget everything else. He pressed her against a shelf, and despite the madness of the situation, she didn't want it to end. The kiss was deep, and every touch spoke of how strongly they were drawn to each other. She felt a rush of adrenaline, and the combination of suppressed desire and forbidden passion made everything even more exhilarating. But suddenly, the voices and sounds of the supermarket pulled her back to reality. She looked around, breathing heavily. "We need to stop," she said, gasping for breath. He nodded reluctantly. "Perhaps you're right, but that doesn't mean our feelings have disappeared." "No, they haven't," she confessed, realizing the connection between them was real. "But we need to set boundaries." Lucas smiled softer this time, still holding her hand and looking into her eyes. He said, "I didn't mean to put you in an awkward position, but when you're around, everything becomes more complicated." A silence hung between them. She knew they were on the verge of something irreversible, yet they were drawn to each other with an undeniable force, making the situation even more compelling. What began as a routine trip to the supermarket had transformed into a whirlwind of emotions she never anticipated. She suggested they return to their mundane tasks, to their shopping, forcing a nervous smile. Keeping their secret became their top priority, at least for now. His agreement sounded promising, and although she tried to maintain an appearance of calm, the tension escalated with every interaction. Their shared shopping, stolen glances, the quiet thrill of a common secret. None of it could hide the fact that they had crossed a line. As they left the supermarket, they felt the air around them charged with electricity. The look she gave him conveyed everything. Raw, urgent desire. "Do you realize this could change everything?" he asked during the drive. With a heavy heart, she agreed, yet her mind was more agitated than ever. Caution became their motto. Lucas responded with a smile that held more than words could express. They parted ways, each lost in their own thoughts, in a new reality pulsating with the promise of something intense and forbidden. The connection between them was just beginning. Life had become complicated, but she was ready to get lost in this labyrinth of feelings. She didn't yet know that this was merely the first of many moments when passion would erupt into their lives, compelling them to explore the boundaries of what was permissible. This ordinary trip to the supermarket had transformed into the beginning of a story that united them in an adventure of self-discovery, passion, and love in its most unexpected forms. The realization of impending changes hung over them like a shadow, but anticipation and desire led them down a path full of promises. In this new dance unfolding between them, she tasted real life, pure and overwhelming. And although she understood it was wrong, the thought of further exploring this connection with Lucas only heightened her excitement. Returning home with a trunk full of groceries, They realized their world was about to become a place where love, attraction, and passion would intertwine in the most unpredictable ways. As he drove, she couldn't help but anticipate everything that lay ahead.